All right, everyone, it's time to talk about Joe Biden's inappropriate interactions with the female race, which are common, becoming a problem for him optically, and it appears to be seeping into his mind specifically, and I'll be covering that. But first, there is going to be, I guess, a Project Veritas release later, I think in like 4 or 5 hours. It's going to be a fairly major one about Epstein specifically, so that's kind of related news because it's kind of similar to what Joe Biden allegedly does. Now, to be clear, I don't allege that. I don't think Biden is predatory. But when Joe Biden goes to rallies and says dumb shit related to the meme about him being predatory, it is not a good idea. I don't understand why his staff and the people around him have not told him fucking shut up about this issue. This is the second time it's happened. The first time months ago was when he invited kids up on stage and he put his hand over on one kid's shoulder and then he pretended to cringe back and said, oh no, but it's okay because I got his permission beforehand, and people sort of nervously chuckled. And it was at that moment when a lot of upper middle class people realized, shit, I'm backing somebody who really can't win the election. He can be nominated because of a crowded field and because most of his opponents are losers and lunatics, but if he actually gets nominated, it's funny because he apparently fares the best in all of the swing state matchups against Trump. This is going to be a delicious election. He'll probably get nominated, he'll probably lose in a landslide against Trump, and it'll be hilarious. Here's the thing. Now Joe Biden comes out at a rally. And apparently what happened is one of his grandkids or something showed him a meme of himself, doing the schmoozy thing with kids. The insinuation being he's, a dirty old man sort of a thing. And he was upset at this, but why is it a good idea to address it? I mean, most people understand it's just a meme. Most people are not seriously alleging anything other than that Biden is creepy, which he is. He's a fucking creepy old man. He's too touchy-feely because he's a relic of the past era. He's living like it's the 50s still, like when he was young. It was a long time ago. He's living like it's like 1970, the world ended in a nuclear fire and we're all in hell or something. That's where Biden is stuck mentally. So he doesn't see a problem because he's used to being able to put his hands on the skirts back in the days when he was a bad dude and he was fending off corn pop and shit like that. He's used to that. He's demented also, so he's sort of reliving the past. The number of times Biden brings up the past, especially the distant past, in his speeches is almost sad. It's almost heartbreaking to watch because this dude is recounting a long and supposedly distinguished political career that really has gone nowhere since he left the Oval Office. Since he's been VP, since Trump took hold, he's done nothing. He's just an empty shell of his former self, not directly involved in the political system, which obviously bothers him. But Biden shouldn't even address such things. So he gets uncomfortable. One dude, I guess, chuckles in the background and Biden gives him the death stare. But it is funny. The whole thing is, you look at the memes about the candidates, especially about their negative aspects. Biden is not usually very meme-worthy at all. The one thing you can fixate on is his somewhat inappropriate reactions to having females near him. And it's not for I think predatory reasons. It's just sort of a sign of the fact that he's old. The fact that he's nearly 80 years old. Now, of course, Bernie Sanders doesn't have this problem. That's because Bernie Sanders is such a fanatic. I imagine him almost as sexless in some ways. Like, he doesn't even give a shit about that sort of thing. He's too busy fomenting to take over for communism or something. What a friggin' loser. At least he's honest about the fact that he wants to steal all of my money. Elizabeth Warren wants to steal even more of it and won't even give me the courtesy of telling me. By the way, this is what we've devolved to talking about within U.S. politics, isn't it? And it's not because of Trump. The lamestream media and all these groups will blame Trump, but really what it's about is the Democrats have learned at this point no platform they can cobble together that involves actual issues is going to work. Because every single time they roll something out, it backfires. Warren with M4A. The other day. Rolls it out, Biden laughs at her, the legacy media laughs at her, the far left crucifies her. She gets crucified by everyone for having an actual policy proposal. It was better off when she would waffle around and not tell anyone what the proposal was going to be. We're going to have universal health care. Oh, don't worry, it's in the works. I'll give you the details later. Later should have been once you already were nominated, Warren. She's probably toast. She's getting hammered. I'm seeing like progressive individuals, they're waking up to the fact that she's not a progressive. Neoliberals are waking up to the fact that she doesn't have the fiscal sense of a fucking snail. they're defaulting back to Joe Biden. 5 polls. He's ahead by at least 5 in all 5 of them. He's ahead in every poll currently being aggregated. Warren has already peaked. She's down 5 points from her peak. And she was only ahead of Biden in the aggregate for a single friggin' day. Who's going to beat the dude? Once you've peaked like that, once you've had a hard peak, you don't rise back up. Warren has failed. Kamala Harris has failed. Bernie Sanders, we don't know whether he's truly peaked or not, but he's not really an alternative. Older, white dude. The only difference is he's actually a left-winger. That's really great for some people within the voting population. For even most center leftists, they're mostly Democrats, they don't like socialism. Bernie Sanders appeals very much to a very small fringe of the Democratic Party, and an even tinier fringe of the general electorate. Apparently, the New York Times releasing some matchup numbers. Frame this in the context of Biden being alternatively really dumb and really incoherent whenever he makes a public appearance, okay? Think of him as the nominee for a moment. In state-by-state matchups, swing state matchups, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren lose almost all of them against Donald Trump, despite the fact that they poll consistently 5 to 10 points ahead in the national average. And this is according to the New York Times, not exactly a pro-Trump outlet. Biden's the only one who wins most of the swing state matchups, places like Michigan and so forth. I think he's the only one that wins Michigan in state-to-state, head-to-head matchups, according to the New York Times poll. Now, of course, if you aggregate them all, they tend to be ahead in some more states, but it's a lot thinner. Biden's much more ahead. But Joe Biden, if you nominate him, don't you think there's a chance he sabotages his own run? Do you honestly think that someone who supports Bernie Sanders style campaigning, or somebody like certainly a Kamala or a Warren at this point, do you think they're actually going to congeal behind a candidate, an old white male neoliberal nostalgia candidate from yesteryear? Do you honestly believe that that's really going to get the youth pumping? They're going to knock on doors for you. They're going to send out flyers and make memes about you. They'll make a lot of memes about Biden, but they'll be just like the one he just addressed, and he shouldn't have. He should shut his mouth. The Democrats shouldn't use the term meme. They shouldn't talk about the internet. They shouldn't talk about technology. They're regressing into the party of covered wagons. They represent the Amish more than they do any modern stream of thought. The Amish minus their charm. The Amish minus their common sense and maybe their tolerance of religious views. That's what the Democrats have become. A corporate bought-out, pro-war front, a bunch of sellouts, a bunch of losers. This isn't the Democrats that were running in the 2008 election or 2004. Hell no, we won't go, stop the war, government shouldn't censor, keep the library records secret. People shouldn't be penalized for having differences of opinion. Those were the Democrats then. I feel really old when I hear them speak now because I can remember back when the Democrats had redeeming characteristics. Now they're too busy trying to say, fucking wax my feminine penis. I want to take more than half of your money away and spend it bombing people or something. That's what the Democrats have become. Biden's one of the more sane ones, and he can't even string a sentence together. He's incoherent. He is literally demented, and yet most of the Democrats think he's electable. I'm here to tell you, Biden's electability peaked 10 years ago. He should have been the nominee in 2008. It probably would have won against a John McCain. He probably would have done tolerably well, possibly better than Obama. And the Democrats, though, decided to drag things further left, not realizing they were going to create an upswelling of millennials and older Gen Zers at this point that are extremely far left. They're dragging the paradigm of the party so far to the left that Biden becomes almost incapable of being nominated. He is hazarded, even though he's technically electable, but he still holds on because there are a lot of Democrats that push back and support him simply because he's the only so-called moderate left. There is no other moderate running who's shown any degree of viability. Steyer? Are you going to get de Blasio in there? Well, he's not exactly a centrist individual either. I think he's further left than a Kamala Harris. Name me the other moderates that are in the race. When somebody like Beto O'Rourke sounds, when Buttigieg sounds like a kind of moderate sort of dude, a little bit semi-sane, that's a problem. He's running at 7. If he drops out tomorrow, I bet Biden will be at 35 within a week. Your likely nominee is a man who doesn't understand even sometimes apparently where he is. The biggest joke about Biden recently was him talking to a screen on C-SPAN. Now, of course, that was not actually true. It was the result of their close-in shots to hide the fact that nobody showed up to listen to all of the Democrats ramble and whine about the need for more diversity among greengrocers. Nobody cares about these things. There's no platform to sell to people. All you have is Trump bad, we must beat him. That's literally the only thing these people fucking care about. Well, then bye-bye to the Democratic Party. If you don't actually have a platform beyond that, people will default to Trump. He'll be reelected in the largest electoral landslide, at least since Ronald Reagan's reelection. That, I believe, is what's likely going to happen. That's what's looming up ahead of us, especially if Biden is the Democratic nominee. And looking at the state-to-state numbers, of course, the only other two technically viable challengers that there are, neither of them can win the swing states. Warren does the worst of all. She arguably, at least as far as optics are concerned, should be the most electable. She's not quite as old. She's a little bit better spoken, certainly, than a Biden, and she's not quite as far out there as Bernie because she doesn't use the title socialist. But she's also a filthy liar. She's also so inauthentic that even the gullible, I think, they're starting to become aware that she's just lying straight up to them. They like the lies, but, they would rather have a Bernie Sanders. And Kamala, she's no longer viable. She's fallen off a cliff. She's down below 4 now. Buttigieg is your only hope within the Democratic Party. Biden's too busy talking about how he's not a kitty diddler. Elizabeth Warren's too busy explaining how she cannot raise middle-class taxes while spending an additional $52 trillion over the next decade. And the third dude's an elderly socialist. There's your field. These are the Democrats. No, thank you. I think I'll probably vote for Trump's re-election. That's about all. Peace out.